Showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix.
Give them that flavor.
What it is. Yay. Yo. What is going on with y'all? This is Nova Phoenix, host of GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio. We are doing the 72nd episode, and we're here. How has your week been? I always have to open it up just to see how y'all's are doing. And of course, I can't hear you back, but it's all good. It's all in the greeting. I've been doing cool, doing all right. Watching the news, reading social media, reading the news online, doing everything to really stay plugged in on what is happening in the United States and what's happening around the world. Sorry, folks, I haven't really been doing my social media on tough and on schedule because I've been so wrapped up in what's been happening with the protests and everything that's going on. So I've kind of it's like I'm staying on top of the news, but at the same time, I just feel like for some reason I should report it because I am a part in the media field, but I'm just so focused on it and just absorbing everything that's happening. And sometimes I feel a little bit, and it's like, oh, don't be so trivial on having to rush into report. But I don't know, that's internal for me. And, scrolling through IG and I'm seeing all these things of people, promoting their music and, you see the IG models and, and their clothes and even the lack of, I haven't really, it doesn't really move me right now because I'm literally in warrior mode in business and how to really start connecting black folks in this country and around the world to start building things because Lyfeblood is a global platform, but of course because I am African American, I want to make sure, and especially as you can see when you turn on the TV what's going on, of course there is a slight bias because my people are going through a lot right now. So I'm literally in warrior mode, and the needle doesn't move for me when I see certain things on IG, and I think it's a waste. So I'm like, whatever. If it's not connecting business, it's not building a foundation, if it's not trying to figure out dealing with racism or any of the other isms that are happening in this country, and if it's not any of that, it's like right now at this moment, I'm locked out of it. I'm concentrating on building Lyfeblood, especially now building a foundation for the people, building it for African Americans or people of African descent in this country and throughout the diaspora, and seeing how we can understand the issues that we are going through right now, and based on those issues, how we can input solutions that are going to move us into the 21st century as a better society, as a better people. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So shout out to all the protests that are going on that's basically feeding off of what's happening in the States. And I know all the politicians are seeing it happening, as I always say, or as I always hashtag, global community. It is a global community, and we are all in on this conversation. And shout out to South Korea. Shout out to, I think they're called BTS, the K-pop group, donating $1 million to the Black Lives Matter movement. Shout out to Portugal. Shout out to Japan, Brazil. Shout out to the Palestinians out there. We know you're going through your own thing over there too, but I saw some pictures of Palestinians supporting Black Lives Matter. Shout out to the Palestinians out. Shout out to all the allies and everyone who is looking for justice, equality, and looking for the basics of providing for yourself food, clothing, and shelter. All that jazz. So much love to everyone that I have in every country that I haven't shouted out. We see you. We definitely see you. What's going on? I heard about this Buffalo police thing. Everybody heard about that case. 75-year-old man got knocked down during a demonstration. 2 officers were suspended because of that. Robert McCabe and Aaron Turgowski. They got suspended, I think, without pay. But the wild thing that was interesting to me is they came out of the arraignment, right? This happened in Buffalo, New York. And all the cops were applauding them. All of them that were in their plain clothes, regular clothes. And they were applauding these 2 guys coming out of the courtroom. And the reason why they were giving them support is because they were ordered to do that. And they don't feel that they feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. But if you see the video, as everybody's already seen, you push down a 75-year-old weak man using a cane, and he split his head open when he fell down, and blood was pouring out. If you think that's noble, I don't see how you argue that. I don't see how. Man, I don't know. That when I saw that, it was crazy to me. I'm like, yo, there's blood leaking out this dude's back of his. Oh man, to me that was crazy. So now because of that, they left all the officers in their own protest left the emergency response team. And because how those cops are treated, I'm like, but whatever, who cares? Disband it. If you feel that's okay as a human being, where you can push down an old man and feel okay with that, good, disband it, and may it never be refilled again. And for shame, imagine if you're the brother, the father, the uncle, the nephew, the niece, and you're coming, that one of the officers is your family member, they coming home to you. I mean, how do you process that? Like, yo, Pop, you shoved down a 75-year-old man, you feel proud about that? Man, can you imagine those family members? Because I guarantee you there's a lot of family members that that watched that and saw their father down there, probably saw the back of their head and their clothes and their shorts and their freaking New Balance sneakers, and they're like, oh my God, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Yo, the UFC did their thing. It's UFC 250, I think it was, and Sean O'Malley walked off with a KO to Eddie Wineland. Oh my God, this dude, Sean O'Malley's real quick, man. Slender dude, quick with his hands, man, and his feet. But yo, he gave a good one, square on the jaw to Eddie Wineland, knocked him out. I think it was like close to 2 minutes. Amanda Nunes was over Felicia Spencer by decision. Rafael Asuncao was KO'd by Cody Garbrandt, and Aljamain Sterling finished off Corey Sanhagen by submission. And I saw some of the fights there, and it's pretty interesting. And it seems like Dana White is having some issues too, man. He's going through some battles. He's having some problems with some main fighters and some A-grade fighters. Jorge Masvidal, John Jones, and Conor McGregor. They feel like they're not getting adequate pay, and he's all here for the battle, man. He feels that there are issues that they're going through, especially during this Corona thing. They said they signed new contracts. I think Masvidal and John Jones still got 7 more fights out of the 8-fight deal that they made. I don't know how much the UFC makes. I heard UFC really, they don't make a lot of money in comparison to boxing, and that's why, I guess these fighters are not getting. I don't know the inner workings of it. The only people that know the inner workings of the, or have an idea as the money that's coming in for the UFC, are the fighters and their whole team. Because people talk and they look at each other and they exchange. I heard this, so they know. So hopefully Dana White could figure this out with his fighters. Minneapolis City Council. Here's the crazy thing, especially what I'm going to talk about today. Minneapolis City Council put out a veto-proof majority to work on disbanding the Minneapolis Police Department. That is crazy. I never thought I would see that day. I swear, I'm telling you, I never thought I would see something like that. I was like, what? Really? And I had to read it a couple times. I'm like, let me go into this. And I got to go to Google's and I got to type it in. Let me see if there's other articles that's repeating this information. And yes, it is true, man. And I'm interested to see how this turns out. And I did some research, and it seems like this is not the first time, actually. But maybe this will be the blueprint, especially all the cameras and all the eyes and all the voices and all the ears that are exchanging information, and really how to deal with racism and white supremacy and police departments across the United States. And let's see how this is going to turn out for cities across the United States. So far, I hear that even New York, and I'll get into a little bit later, but Andrew Cuomo is not with it. He's like, well, look at all those looters out there. We can't disband the police right now. Of course, he's not going to say otherwise. Even the mayor of Minneapolis, or whoever this guy's name, I forgot the guy, Frey or whatever. He went to the one of the protests and they straight booed this dude off when they was like, yes or no, or are you gonna disband the police? And he wasn't trying to hear, and the walk of shame, he had to leave because the whole crowd was like, go home, or whatever they were saying. It was crazy. So let's see how this is going to turn out. And me doing further reading and articles and upon articles and staying up late at night, really trying to wrap my mind around this. It is possible. There was a city actually that they did it. And big shout out to Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark. Speaking of that, he actually, to me, everybody, all the mayors and politicians and governors, they say, oh my God, we support George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. Oh my God. And you have a couple of the tears coming down and everybody want to kneel. Listen, man, I don't want to hear none of that. Yeah, all well and good. All right, you feel it? Now let me see some tangibles. Let me see what is going to come out of this concrete, because it's not so much of all of this, all this crying. I don't want to. Okay, cool. Hey, you're human. Fine, cry. You feel bad about it. All right, let's come with some tangibles. What are we gonna do? And so far, Ras Baraka has come out with something. And I found out about it on my IG page, and I thought it was dope. What he did. To me, so far, he is the only mayor that actually put something out for his city council. So he says, establish a new office of violence prevention funded by percent of police budget, implement a see something, say something, do something. No, see something, say something, do something policy to demand that all City of Newark employees immediately intervene and report blatant civil rights violations by other employees, including police and fire. All acts of racism by City of Newark employees will result in automatic termination. Employees who fail to take action if they witness these acts will also be terminated. Next, establish a hate group registry and amend as new groups are identified. Outlaw white supremacy and hate groups, declaring them as terrorists and banned from the city. And last, close the first precinct of Newark Police Division, where the Newark Rebellion began in 1967, and repurposed for trauma care, violence prevention, workforce development, and a museum chronicling local activism in Newark. Yo, shout out to Mayor Ras Baraka, mayor of Newark, for really putting his foot down and saying, okay, we're going to do something for the city of Newark. I don't see nobody putting out, no mayor saying now. All I hear is, oh my God, we feel for Black Lives. All right. What you doing? All right. Now, we passed that. We passed the tears now. We passed the sorrow. Okay, we get that. Okay, now what you gonna do for the people? Because goddamn, the country is fucking burning down. What are you gonna do? We'll see. So lastly, Bill Maher had Killer Mike on the show, and Killer Mike's been getting a lot of attention because, of course, that brother is very articulate. He's very knowledgeable. Of course, he reads. This dude be pulling stuff out of the history books and applying it to his conversation when he speaks to his people in Atlanta, and when he's speaking to the country. And yeah, man, I bought his album. I haven't listened to it yet, but I will. And this to be real, because I ain't no rider, no coattail rider. I always dug Killer Mike, but I haven't really had an opportunity to get his other albums. A lot of other things is happening, but really him being put on Front Street, and I was like, I gotta support this dude, man. I gotta, and I saw that I peeped it when Charlamagne the God was promoting it on IG, not promoting it, but talking about it. He was, but just talking about it on IG. I was like, you know what? Boom, let me get this. So I gotta listen to that album. But big ups to him. He was on Bill Maher. So he always says plan, organize, mobilize. He says plot, plan, organize, mobilize. Plot, plan, mobilize, organize, mobilize. And I think those are beautiful words that you should hashtag. Those are beautiful words that should be repeated constantly when the lights are on and cameras is rolling. Because after all this finishes, what are we planning to do? What are Americans planning to do? All right. Right now, it's a rush. Everybody's tense right now because there's a protest going, not just here in America, but as I said, around the world. So that is getting politicians nervous, and they say, okay, we got to do something together. But when everything calms down, all right, sports starts happening and we're moving into phases. Because again, remember, people were going through COVID-19. Where do we go from here? What happens? So listen, I don't want no lip service. I don't want to see no famous faces leading the charge. I want no kumbaya, fake ass liberals talking about no mess, no cooning. I don't want to see it, especially from black politicians. I don't want to see it. I don't give a damn about famous. They got something going on right now on TV. I forgot who's on it, but they talking about where do we go from here. You got all types of famous faces. And I'm like, nah, man, what are we going to do here? Now, I'm not going to knock it. I'm going to watch it. Let me see what they're talking about. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But I've seen this before where they'll throw faces, recognizable faces on TV just to sway the attention of the people. And all of a sudden, we are hanging off every word that they're saying. So we'll see how that's going to go. I don't know if it's already happened. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't want no lip service, man. I'm tired of that. Even I saw, what's her name? Nancy Pelosi, and you have the Senator of New York. What's his name? I forgot the Senator of New York, whatever that guy's name is. And they had like kente cloth on, and they knelt down for 8-something minutes or whatever the time that they knelt. And I'm just looking at it like, I don't give a damn about no, I don't give a damn about no kente cloth. You wearing something around your neck? I want tangibles, goddammit, tangibles. What you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Fine. Oh, well, yeah, you kneeling. All right, great gesture. Now, moving forward, what we gonna do? And they said something where you're gonna do something. Okay, look, what I want it drafted, I want it signed, I want it implemented. Drafted, signed, and implemented. I don't want to see concrete evidence that we are putting this forward and we're changing the way the country is going. We're changing the way. You hear that call? Woo! Yeah, man, that's right. It's New York summertime, man. I wanted to change it. All right. I want to see concrete evidence that we are moving forward, whatever plan they're putting in. And hopefully, who are the people at the table, by the way, that's putting this together? Who are the people at the round table that's discussing this? And who's going to make sure that we're going to go forward on this? So I don't want no goddamn kumbaya. Get off my hand. All right. Don't hold my hand. What we doing? All right. This is some serious business right now. Serious business. I don't want to do all that shit. You do that with somebody else. All right. Give me the plan. Who are you talking to that's going to start implementing these things? And let's get on the street. Let's get on the street. Let's do everything. We're talking about grants for businesses, funding for businesses. We're talking about affordable housing. We're talking about affordable health care. We're talking about dealing with racism. How are we going to do that? In the workplace, outside of workplace, police reform. Are we going to how are we going to restructure these police departments or shut them down? Come on, let's get. I ain't with all that bullshit. All right, we going to get into some music now. All right, what music do I have for you? And it's interesting. Before we get into that, I want to get into one of the plans that I put together because I was inspired by one of his brothers. Deon Taylor, he's a director, Hollywood director, and I follow him, and he said a lot of good things, and I already knew this, but to hear from someone to say that, I always say that for even lifers, the power is in you. Don't wait for anybody. You make the change that you want. You're the change that you're expecting. And hearing his piece, I was kind of like asking some people, and I put this thing together as when he spoke about it, when I saw his IG. And I reached out, I think, to one or two people just to get their take on what I wrote. And one guy responded. Shout out to Kevin Powell, man. He didn't have time. I know this brother for connected, and I see his work that he's doing. He sees what I'm doing, and we wish each other the best on whatever endeavors that we are on the road on making a concrete thing. And but yeah, I shot him out, but he was busy, and I reached out to somebody else, but I didn't hear anything back. But that's all good. What I'm gonna do is I pushed it forward anyway, and it's always gonna be a work in progress, and that's what the show is gonna be about. Speaking on the American Economic Freedom Project. The American Economic Freedom Project is on my IG account, on my Twitter, and getting that out there on ways how we can start dealing with this constructively, and on dealing with the issues of this country. That's what I'll be getting into. So the music that I got going on right here, we have this song by Josh Berkeley. I played his music on the show before, but he has a song called Black Skin that he put up on his IG account again. And I thought it was a dope song. It was touching, and I was like, let me get a hold of that. Josh, hit me off with this, and yeah, he sent me the file. So hopefully you guys I know you guys love this song. This will touch you. So we'll start off with Josh Berkeley with Black Skin, and then we'll get into Joonie, My Love Song. All right, so Josh Berkeley with Black Skin, and Joonie with My Love Song. All right.
Is there a price to pay for my black skin? It feels like a crime for bearing this black skin. There's hate in your DNA for my black skin. 'Cause I can't breathe, but you don't care. I'm trying to speak, but my lungs are caving in. It's hard to breathe, still you don't care. I'm trying to speak, but my lungs are caving in. You take my life, but not my soul. Steal my breath, but not my voice. My mama cry, my daddy cry. My brother loads up the clip to ride. My sister cried while she hugs him tight. Said you ain't leaving. I can't breathe, but you don't care. I wanna scream out loud, but my lungs are caving in. It's hard to breathe, but you don't care. I wanna scream, but my lungs are caving in. Strange fruit don't hang from trees no more. No longer bound to the forest. Oh. Can somebody help? It's hard to speak with a pneumatic. I can't breathe, breathe,
platform in the world. GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio.
Where there is love, there's never lonely faces. Beautiful memories with you. And every place I go never really matters. 'Cause I just wanna be with you. Some wait for a lifetime, but I found that special one. And you're my love song, my sweet love song. Every word, every melody I sing. And if you left me, I'd be so lonely. 'Cause baby, you are the love song of my dreams. My dreams. You're the love song of my dreams. They tell me magic feels like this. It's like the melody is so natural when we kiss. What could I ever want? 'Cause you make life beautiful, beautiful. You're all I'd ever ask for. And if you wonder why I'm so into you, you're my love song, my sweet love song. Every word, every melody I sing. If you left me, I'd be so lonely. 'Cause baby, you are the love song of my dreams. My dreams. You're the love song of my dreams. I would always wonder if I'd ever find the one, my queen. You were on the highest mountain, oh, and I found you with your eyes on me. Now you are, you're my love song, yeah, sweet love song. Yeah, every word, every melody I sing. And if you left me, I'd be so lonely. 'Cause baby, you are the love song of my dreams. My dreams. Yeah. You're the love song of my dreams. The love song. Hey.
This is GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com. Come join, be a Lyfer. Practice dollar power and build financial independence.
Okay, that was Josh Berkeley with Black Skin. That was a beautiful song. I heard it, and it's so right for this time right now. It's so right now. So big ups to Josh Berkeley. And then you heard Joonie with My Love Song. Good dope song too, man. So all right, we're gonna get into. I guess we'll get into the. I'm thinking of should I do business of the week right now? All right, I'll leave it for later. All right, so yeah, I'll do business of the week in the next one. So anyway, so we're gonna get into this new project that I have going on, of course. And I do have to put it up on my profile on Lyfeblood, and it's the American Economic Freedom Project. And I thought that it was some concrete steps that we can start implementing so we can start making a change in this country. And it's always going to be something that's a work in progress. And I'm open to comments. I'm open to people, throwing in their 2 cents. Not everything is going to change, but it will always be something that's in development, and it's going to be something that's going to be organically, grown, and it'll go into the right places. Anybody has great ideas, we will gladly add on to the list. I think it's about 10 points. Yeah, it's about 10 points. So to start with, so let me just get this thing out. I just want to keep on time here so I don't get too crazy. The last show was long. But that was because we had my man Tatenda on the show from South Africa, the owner of the M.L.S. So if you guys haven't checked out that show, please go back to the last show. And it's an interview with Tatenda Mungofa. He's the founder of the M.L.S. South African automobile. And we had a great conversation. Big ups to my brother. So, all right, so we're going to get started. So the first one on the American Freedom Project is filing a United Nations human rights complaint. We're dealing with some human rights issues in this country, and I think this goes off on how Malcolm X said. It's not a civil rights issue, it's a human rights issue. And we can file a complaint, and I say that because there are countries around the world that sees what's going on. There was actually Greece. I think it was Greece. They were actually throwing Molotov cocktails, and also I think it was Portugal or one of them. It's either Portugal or Spain. One of them. They were actually protesting in front of the U.S. embassy in their country. And I'm like, wow, look at this. Look how the word is spreading, and people are just, we're all saying the same thing here, and they're in support. And that's why I say we have to file a United Nations human rights complaint against the United States for the treatment of African American population, and figure out ways where we can start swaying. And I know everybody's gonna be like, United States is the big dog on the panel. They run in the United Nations, but again, this is somewhere we can have as added pressure on the United States government and its politicians on how we can start moving in another trajectory as far as dealing with racism in this country. And it's funny, even in China, and I think there was another country that was giving Trump the business, saying, "Are you talking about us? What about y'all?" So I'm with that in any way. I don't know if there has been one ever, but that's something I have to look at. So to forgive my ignorance on that, but definitely I think that should be number one and get that ball rolling. Number two, as in the spirit of Lifeblood, build a group economics network. I always encourage the personal growth or professional development of all people who lack financial access. And I think that's one of the key things that continues, that allows racism and white supremacy to continue, the lack of access. And there's one sister that I was talking about, again, it's on IG and social media, how she was talking about, when people keep on talking about, why the looting, you look at these people looting, what does it solve, blah, 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 blah. And she gave a very passionate, direct and thought out explanation to that. And not to worry about the what, but the why. Why does it happen? And she broke it down into 450 years using the Monopoly game as an example. And to sum it up, not to go over everything that she said, to pretty much sum it up, she was like 450 years of being locked out financially. And then the only way we could catch up is by asking for some sort of money to help the African American population. But even that doesn't happen. So what else do people have left but to take in that moment, or quote unquote to loot, going into these stores and getting some sort of access. So knowing the history of how African Americans are treated in this country, the black folks in this country, I think what's very important to talk about is building that group economics network. And I always say, on a global scale, to seek that power within yourself and the money that you already have. And this is not something where you have to be super rich. You don't have to say, man, I don't have no $500 to donate, $1,000 to donate, $5,000 like some of these other folks. No, it doesn't take all that. It doesn't even take sometimes $50. It depends on what you have. But this is something that will work out for those that are the poor. And all it takes is $1. And if we can collectively work together and pool our money, whether it's for an individual who wants to start a business or support, financial support because they don't have money for rent or for whatever reason that's going on, that this is what it's here for. To build a group economics network, and it's important, and we call it dollar power. It is important that we do that because we're not getting the money that we're supposed to be getting from these sources, from these institutions that have drafted these documents and these proposals and these bills and these laws, and it's supposed to go and be disseminated to the people, but it's not getting to the people. But you know what? It's funny. We give the people the money. We give these folks money in order to be rich. We give these folks money in order to have the finance and the economics to buy or manufacture the tools that are used to keep you suppressed. Understand what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the glass half full situation. You have the power. Don't stop asking them for it. You have it. Look to each other for it. And that's a key part in how you could start building your own sense of access and freedom in your community. And that could go and I'll explain a little bit later. So that's the base level. Everybody's on the same page. That's why when I tell people, when people come on Lyfeblood.com, it's not just to look around. No. It is your duty in the dollar power mantra that if you see somebody do something dope, you give them $1 per month. We can all work it out. We have spent more money on frivolous things, $50, $100. We can figure it out when we sit down and we go through our books. We was like, wow, we didn't have to do that. And we can spend money that just flies out of our pockets and we forget about it. $50, $75. And you think back on it like, I didn't really need to spend on that. So we have to be disciplined and say, all right, instead of just throwing our money away and being frivolous, where can I put this money to 50 people? It adds up. I'm telling you. I think the third part, the third part, the American Freedom Project, is create a community super PAC, political action committee. Now, I say this because the system is we have political action committees that support various politicians. Unfortunately, we have politicians that lean when they're looking for campaign financing. It's funny, reading a bunch of articles and understanding politics. A lot of politicians spend most of their time not to make sure the constituency is good, but where they're going to get money for their campaign. And there's some, I think the one article said this individual that works in politics said like 50% of the time, 70% of the time, they're fishing for money. So instead of how all these organizations are coming together and building political action networks and financing campaigns and all these other things, there should be a community political action network, whatever the name is, where people will pool the money and put it in there monthly, and they'll pool the money. And now you can put out ads of your own. That's what PACs do, man. They put out ads, to throw mud at this politician or to support this politician. You can do it where you can sway the story or the narrative of what's happening in the country, or you can basically expose a certain politician as doing some fucked up things. All right. So build a community super PAC. Now, you have to be careful. Just because you have money doesn't mean the politician's going to take it from you. So it's important. The other part is the voting aspect. Vote for people that are going to listen to the struggles or to the pain that you're going through, and it's going to look out for your own self-interest. And they're going to say, okay, I'm going to come in there and you support them. This is how the community super PAC can also work. Because a lot of times it's not a single individual. It's not a single individual. All right. That single individual will come in. That single individual will come in. And because we know the system is corrupt in a lot of different ways, they'll come in with the idea that they're going to change things, but it's a lot more than one person. That's why this word is called systemic. It is everywhere, from the top to the bottom. So it's important that the community supports the politician, once they get in the doors, we support them financially in whatever that they need. So we don't leave them out high and dry. And that goes, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, because it's two wings to the same bird. As soon as you're not talking the same, what's the word? As soon as you're not talking the same talking points as any of these two parties, you're already being looked at as the pariah or the outside person. So it's important we do support these people. Okay. So, and I think one more point I'm going to throw out there is create and send lobbyist representative. Now, I say you can't beat them, join them. A lot of times we have some issues with lobbyists. Oh my God, this is terrible. How this is affecting. We got to get money out of politics. And I do believe in getting money out of politics. I'm so against Citizens United versus Supreme Court, where you can give unlimited campaign financing to any politician. I'm always against that, because how do we make sure that politicians are going to stand for the people, and not to some dude just slipping them envelopes on a night out having fun somewhere? How do we do that? But my thing is fine. It exists now. You could correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see it turning anytime in the future. So can't beat them, join them. We should create our own community lobbyist representative that goes out and supports, or, bumps the gums with politicians, whoever we need. Money talk, bullshit walk. And we have that money to support a specific politician who is going to support us. And we make sure we can hobnob this representative, hobnobs, it comes back with the information for us, and okay, what's going on? Hobnob, do whatever. I don't want to know the details, but make sure that and how lobbyists work. So we need one of those to do the bidding or work in the interest of the people. I think that's very important, building that super PAC and creating a lobbyist representative that we could send out. And they can, glad hand them, see what's going on in the halls of Congress. I read one article where a guy was so tired of the lobbyist business. I forgot what he did. I think he started his own podcast, or he worked in media. I think he went in the media field. Yeah. This article say he went to the media field, but he was a lobbyist for 6 years, and he was like, "Oh my God, there's no such thing as any mortal standing." Whatever it is, whatever company that you represent in whatever industry, you go to that particular politician. If they're on that specific committee. Hey man, you don't want this to sway that way, or this bill can't really pass, or you do want this bill to pass. Hey man, listen, Senator such and such, or hey, this is such and such, what represent House of Rep or whatever. Hey, let's come out with me and have fun, have a couple drinks. Don't worry about it. I'll take care. All of a sudden, what is ethical with the bill that you want, that the people want, it doesn't get passed. What happened? I don't know. And it's funny. That's why I say it's so important, because what do we do after we vote for these politicians? Say the guy is honest. He's a good, honest, or a woman. Good, honest woman. All right. She represents the people, power to the people, fists in the air. We're going to have reform. We're going to do all these things. Everybody's like, hurrah, right? Everybody's cool. I said this before. But then we don't know, once they get voted for, once they win, what happens behind the closed doors. We don't know what happens. And then they come out and say, man, it's a little more difficult than I expected. It's a little more difficult. What? A little more difficult? What happened? And all of a sudden people lose hope. Right? So it's important that we vote, but it's just not voting. We have to go into this. Stop with this messiah figure. This one person is going to solve all. Stop watching these movies as though that one man and that woman goes in and knocks off and kills 100 people in front of them. It does not exist. It has to be a group effort. We have to know where the corruption, where the rot exists, and we have to cut it out. So it's just not sending in one person. After we one person, you got to get in. Okay, after you get in, you got to get in. And now they got to work on a group effort. Okay? And I'll get to my other point, how we're going to make sure that goes in. Because this is serious now. This is not a game. We understand the system is fucked up. But how do we go forward and bully our way in to make sure we get what we need? Because right now, the people are losing. Because the way the system is structured. We're playing checkers and they playing chess. You think, oh, well, we and not knocking anybody. Well, we got to vote. You know, the protests are going on. You know what we do? Because they're trying to shift that anger, which I understand. Where do we go with our energy? Well, we got to vote. Then I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, vote and do what next? This is more than voting. Even they got that messed up. They trying to suppress a vote on the Republican side. And then some of the Democrats don't even care because it works in their favor when they need it. It's not just voting. You vote and what else? What else? You get your guy in and what else? He's going into a war zone in those halls of Congress. And everybody's looking at this woman like, what you think you're going to change? Because the system has been firmly entrenched in the bullshit. It is a complicated, convoluted system that has worked its way the way we see it for over 50 years. They are well entrenched in the bullshit. You speak to any career politician. There's so many moving parts of this game where you could get stuck. One person can't do it alone. So you got to bum rush the system. Turn shit over. All right. So we're going to get into the song. Let's get what music we got going on. Music we got. Okay, so we're going to get into Mickey Woods Jr. for the ISO, the name of the song, off his album 40 Days and 40 Nights. We're going to get into him, and I got a couple of bonus songs. So let's see what we're going to get into. Listen up, and I'll surprise you guys, all right? All right, Mickey, shout out to Mickey Woods, man, for the ISO. All right, listen.
I learned to bob and weave on like level 4. That's why my godly features so omnipresent. I hope he make it rain for forevermore. Results of me 93 getting dropped in deserts. Even my niggas in Egypt pulling up foes in the leader. My brother told me it's demons all on his dome when he leaning. I'm at they head, I just can't find them around. Plus I know they always hanging on this side of the town. I'm a dice pitcher, fucking light switcher. I be praying evil, get away from my niggas. I got icicles on the top of my temple. That's about as random as a fucking white kicker. I'm a dice pitcher, fucking light switcher. I be praying evil, get away from my niggas. I got.
Listen up.
Turn up.
You're listening to GCOM Radio.
Long time since we graduated. That was back when my cousin charges wasn't so aggravated. I've been cherishing these moments just like a cancer patient. Just cut me off if I went too far. Same destination, but different car. I praise the Lord if I see them all. Boy, it's like either or. Nigga just ain't never seen the sunshine. That's the main reason why I drive slow. Let a nigga come and hit it one time. And him pick and rollin' like a maestro. Bark out on me every time I come down. Screaming at my teammates for the ISO. I'm just screaming at my teammates for the ISO. Screaming at my teammates for the. Man, it's been such a long time since we graduated. That was back when my cousin charges wasn't so aggravated. I've been cherishing these moments just like a cancer patient. Just cut me off if I went too far. Same destination, but different car. I praise the Lord if I see them all. Boy, it's like either or.
Just let me hear one time. Just let
You know what you're rocking to?
Rocking with the best.
Only the best. GCOM Radio.
I got blue skies, girl, you bright on my day. When you pass by my way, I don't know what to say. Day and night, you stand on my mind. I ain't tryna waste your time, that's what's on my mind.
I'm talking tacos and Netflix. You smoke, yeah, let's match this. Getting nasty on the clean bed. Wait, hold up right quick. Met her on the Sunday. She fell in love by Monday. Jealous on the Tuesday. Miss me on the Wednesday. I ain't never been cold-hearted. I don't really do the Olive Garden. Chillin' on the beach. We can drink on some art and gardens. Allergic to fake love. Bullshit, I call it. My heart can't get broke again. Got zero pain tolerance.
I'm talking blue skies, you bright on my day. When you pass by my way, I forget what to say. Day and night, you stuck on my mind. Wanna see you all the time. Got me hypnotized. Got blue skies, girl, you bright on my day. When you pass by my way, I don't know what to say. Day and night, you stand on my mind. I ain't tryna waste your time. That's what's on my mind. That's what's on my mind. That's what's on my mind.
Yeah, that was Mickey Woods with for the ISO. Make sure you go and check out his new song and his new record, which is, and I wanted to make sure I got it off the album 40 Days and 40 Nights. Also, you heard Grape Soda Henderson with his joint, what was that? Blue Skies, dope song too. All right, so before we go any further into this segment, we're gonna get into Business of the Week. All right, we haven't done that. We didn't have time to do it last week, so because my brother Tatenda. Make sure you go and listen to that interview. All right, let's go into Business of the Week.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up.
Bringing you the business of the week and its innovative founders. It's what you've been waiting for.
There are several media sources that detail the corruption of the honey industry. Unfortunately, 70% of the honey we buy from supermarkets are not real honey from bee honeycombs. With a seriously high percentage like that, how do we make sure we get real honey? Zach and Zoe's Sweet Bee Farm has the right taste. When this young family decided to move to a more suburban surrounding, they discovered that their son suffered from asthma and would worsen during the spring and fall seasons. They shied away from prescribing medicines and researched the natural treatments that could come from raw honey. It's called immunotherapy. By exposing people to the element that they're allergic to, they would build up a natural immunity over time. After encouragement from fellow beekeepers and continuing their research, they finally decided to order bees. The beekeeping journey has led them to several types of jarred honey and their own store at the Chelsea Market in New York City. Lyfeblood.com would like to salute Zach and Zoe's Sweet Bee Farm for starting this sweet endeavor for all to dip their fingers into the delectable syrupy heaven in our kitchens. All right, folks. All right. So we're going to continue with the American Economic Freedom Project. So as I said before, it's important, as last time I said, community super PAC, creating your own political action committee, and also creating and sending out lobbyist representatives to talk to some of these politicians that you don't vote for. I think those are two key things that have to be drafted and to be created with the community's interests in mind. And we can go out and start to somehow get things moving in the halls of Congress. But as I said, it's just not voting for someone. You could vote for somebody and then all of a sudden they go into the door and they come back out and say, oh, I don't know what happened. You can have that individual that, really say genuinely want some change or reform or to push forward a bill that's going to be in the best interest of the community. But then they go in there and all of a sudden you have problems and what happened, and then all that's going to come out of it is people losing hope and all these things. So that's why I say it's key. It's key to have transparency. Big thing that you got to have is transparency. the politicians that you vote for have to be able to document legally, record meetings behind closed doors, so we know exactly what is being said, who is holding things up, who is dragging their feet on certain things, what mechanisms are being put in place to keep things moving at a slow pace. And you got to know the who, you got to know the what, the where, the why. We got to shine the light and letting these roaches scurry. The only way, as everybody has always said, there's been this phrase has been tossed around, drain the swamp. The only way you drain the swamp is if you actively try to seek out where the inefficiencies, where the rot is placed in order for the people to cut it out. And transparency is going to do that. You know, well, we have C-SPAN. Yeah, that's what's recorded. We got to know what's happening that's not recorded, where the lights are not shining, where the cameras are not are recording, and then the microphones. We have to be able to see what's happening, and then it goes in front of the people, say, well, this is the who, this is the what, this is the why, this is the where, this is what's happening. Now we can get, because a lot of people may not know how things function the way they function. And not to say that people haven't said this on, you know, these pundits and these people to come on TV and say, hey, this is how things work. But we have to know, okay, A to Z, where are we having the problem? And then the people can figure out, you know, zone in on that, and we can start moving forward to how we're going to root this thing out. And however the people respond is how the people are going to respond, okay? So transparency is super key. Now let's go off to the second thing. Not even the second, the sixth thing, excuse me. So let's go off into the sixth thing, initiative for police departments. That's one of the key things that we're talking about as far as racism and police brutality, why it keeps happening, what's going on. And after reading tons of articles and whatever I read, I was like, you know what, why is this happening? And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but at least I can say, okay, the few things, and maybe if we jot down these few things, the people could come up with something, okay, how do we circumvent this? And one of the key problems that I've seen are police unions. Police unions in major cities routinely have provisions put into the contracts where they have just been given too much power. And it allows too much room for road cops to do what they do. And they can build up these records, and they don't have to even worry about their record, because somewhere, somehow it's going to be expunged, and they're going to have the support of the union. That needs to be tackled. I think that's A1, that's a problem. I think the root cause here is how they're seeing it is cities have bargained away their power to discipline police officers. They say, and somewhere in the 1980s, when cities were really cash-strapped, the only way they can come to an agreement on how they're doing these police unions is by, instead of giving an increase in salaries, they kind of pushed off more of the management control over to unions. That's a major problem. That is a major problem. They say because of the recessions in the city, they was like, you know what, don't worry about it. We don't have any money, so you know, maybe you could do a little bit more of this. And okay, we won't stress you because of that. And this is how police commissioners are able to side with police officers a lot more. And I'm talking about the really bad ones. All right. Not to say, just to let me preface this by saying, now to understand the issues of police brutality, we understand, and there was a report done, and I said this before, that somehow we have a lot of white supremacist organizations that have infiltrated police departments across America. So we have a systemic problem that's happening where we have people that are using the system and using state law in order to put into their action their own sick, demented ways, and on how they feel about people of color, how they feel about black people in particular. So it is a systemic problem. But there are certain things that in when it comes to white supremacy or racist officers or agents, as I have to say, in the system, that have bent the system to their will and have used certain things, or based on the environment or the socio-political climate of the time, in ways they can bend it and shape it, and they can use it to their own advantage. So they're using the system, or the tools and the mechanisms within the system, in order to put to action their own demented ways of racism and white supremacy. I'm just showing you the mechanisms, the cogs in the machine, on how they work and bend towards the favor of corruption in police departments across the country. And this is one of them, as far as what was the weakened financial system of these cities in the 80s. And then people at the table said, you know what, here's more power. We don't have more money to give you. So now this has allowed officers to in ways, one of the things that's been built into their contracts is their disciplinary record. Their complaints have a short shelf life of 45 years. So after 45 years, they disappear, and all of a sudden there's no record. This guy he can have 50 complaints or disciplinary notes on his record, and all of a sudden they just disappear over time, especially if you're a career cop for 25 years. You have restrictions on anonymous complaints, so you can't really complain and not give your name. A lot of people may be afraid because they don't want to get any pushback. So now you can't submit any anonymous claims to specific officers. And you see, officers are able to see the footage before citizens can see it. You give them too much room to manipulate or edit footage. So that prime issue. And that's built into the contracts. You have contracts that allow officers to refuse to testify before civilian oversight boards. Again, more power is given to officers to refuse to testify. And you can have a murder. You can have a literal lynching of what we've seen with George Floyd, and officers can refuse to testify. That is amazing. In Las Vegas, they say one union contract requires a court order to access an employee's file. They can deny that. Officers can be paid while on disciplinary suspensions. Now they're going to say, well, you know what? Everybody's going to complain about a specific officer, and we just can't have these officers. They have to figure out a way to eat. If you have a record and it's gross abuse, they should be in no way, if they're on suspension, that they should collect money. Next thing is officers can review investigative materials, unlike the complainants. I think I just said that before, and that's particular in footage. But as far as the investigative materials that's mounting against police officers, officers can review that material, review it, go through it. Again, you leave it open to corruption. You leave this evidence, the same way where you submit evidence, a detective is gathering evidence to a murder. It's a problem if anybody were to step into that crime scene. What do they say? You're tainting my crime scene. You are messing with the evidence. That's in a way where they can build a case against the specific perpetrator, criminal, whatever the case may be. You are tainting the evidence. This is the same problem. Officers cannot review the investigative material because it is a conflict of how we're going to bring about a solid case against these particular cops that are literally criminals with a badge on. Departments can select their own arbitrator who can decide how an officer is going to be treated, whether he's going to be fired or not. How is that possible where if there's a complaint, you have people sitting down and all of a sudden you have a department that can pick their arbitrator? They say, especially, and I looked it up for the Minneapolis, and I don't know the specific, the wording, but pretty much in a nutshell, what it means, if the union and the city management can't come up with an arbitrator that they can both agree on, the police commissioner can select his arbitrator for the particular case. What? How? What? That has to be tossed out. That's got to be cut out. Again, then what you're saying is it's going to side with police for an arbitrator. That's not an independent arbitrator. You're defaulting right back to the police. That has to be dealt with. So it's funny how, and it's funny, I have to say, I ran into this article, and it was saying Dr. Rob Gilazao, he's assistant professor of economics at the University of Victoria, and he was doing research on police unionization, and he found out that there was an increase of civilians being killed after unions have been established. And even though they're saying, and he made his comment, it's on Twitter, you can go to the Twitter page, that's Rob, R-O-B, Gilazao, French guy, Gillezeau. And he actually said in a tweet, he said, even though civilian killings should be equal to non-white and white civilians, he says that collective bargaining rights have only protected the ability of officers to discriminate in non-white neighborhoods. That is where white supremacy comes in. It's not so much as for the white populations of a specific city, but this is to directly affect POCs and black neighborhoods to do what they want. They want to move with impunity. That is the problem. They want to move without having to be subjected to any law, so they can move about freely and kill people. Okay? Now, in 2014, there was a case where a cop raped a woman in the back of a squad car, and the city manager, Cheryl Scully, wanted to assert reforms afterwards in the police union contract. You know what the union did? They intimidated Miss Scully and spent $1 million on billboards ads disparaging the character of the Texas city manager. This happened in Texas. I think it's Houston or something like that. So again, they have their own committee where they can allocate funding to mudsling on specific public figures or I would say public officers to keep them from pushing through reform. Interesting. So the other problem that we have here that comes from these crazy police union contracts is sometimes we've seen it many times. You see the union chief say, well, you know what, if you're going to push forward with this ridiculous reform, you know what, we're going to slow down tickets. We're going to step down from doing certain units. Cops will step down and not work. All of a sudden they're getting less tickets because we understand the city makes money off of tickets being distributed. Or marking me, whether parking tickets or anything that deals with quality of life, pretty much. So now they're threatening the mayor. They will threaten whoever, and they'll say, you know what, we're just going to slow down. All of a sudden, it's a money thing. It always comes down to a money thing. So this is how the power police unions in state and local politics, they receive little pushback because of these police union contracts that has overpowered police departments and has tied the hands of politicians, local politicians, and they can't get anything done. So to me, this is an easy solution, man. As I said before, so vote and support federal judges, your local judges, the prosecutors, the commissioners. Having an independent arbitrator outside of the influence and selection of a police, anyone in the police department, police commissioner, police chief, I don't care. Truly independent. Now, it's funny, I talk about these things, what I'm talking about as far as police is concerned, and I listed it in the American Freedom Project, Economics Project. The American Economic Freedom Project. And I say this because we have a CCRB here, all right? And that's an independent review board in New York that reviews bad cops. But we're still having black men and black women die at the hands of police officers. For the CCRB, obviously, is not getting anything done. Obviously, it's not getting anything done. That's why I say, one key thing, have your own community super PAC. 2, have your own lobbyist representative, and transparency. Because you have all these laws in place, but people are bullying other people to keep these laws from being enacted or enforced. So that's key. All right, so we're going to get into some more music, and we'll get back into finishing this in the last segment. So, and we'll get to this, get this quick. So we're going to play McKenna. That's a throwback. We're going to throw that on there too. And they got their song called MPH. So shout out to McKenna out there in California doing their thing. We're gonna play McKenna and one more for you. I'm not so sure, but we'll see on a comeback. All right. So check this out.
Y'all check it out, y'all. Here's a bonus. You heard it before. Yeah. Here we go again. Serving that heat. Now turn me up. GCOM Radio.
One-on-one, you know it's for sure. Stay classy like you, Santiago. Yeah, I only call when I need you. Yeah, I haven't been in a while, so drifting off in no destinations. Rolling sun is glowing off the PCA. Don't worry about the UPA. I don't mind if you smoke, I lay back in that zone. Girl, you know that I don't wanna desert you. You wanna have it your way. You want something more official. I say we just keep it the same. She move, 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 she move. Moon and the stars on their way. You and foreign. See the moon and the stars on our way. It's just you and foreign. Tell me what you're waiting for. Tell me what I've got to prove with you. Got my head in the clouds and soaking the sun out, cracking the mileage with you. Top is down, cruising, speeding through PV. Heighten my senses just to feel seasons. I can smell perfume, I can smell Riesling. High beyond lenses, hopping out, beaming, shining. You in your prime, better with age, girl, don't look at the time. Let me unwind with you, been in wine for two. Looking for signs from you, let me align. Girl, you know that I don't wanna desert you. You wanna have it your way. You want something more official. I say we just keep it the same.
plug and get it off in a week. That shit off. You can't tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy will get some money and he know how to eat. Yeah, you can't tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you find a plug and get it off in a week. That shit off. You can't tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy will get some money and he know how to eat. Had to step away from niggas that was blocking my blessing. The plug got a bag, got that bitch on the strip. You can't tell a nigga shit about me, but I'm eating, stacking every dollar, upgrade every season. Ring on my lady, gay life a new meaning. Shots to your stomach, how you getting 2 feet? Came from the bottom, my nigga, I had the bubble. Can't see me working doubles, I was better with the hustle. Better in the kitchen with making the fiends dishes. Better on the mic than half of you lame niggas. Like being close, not long range to hit 'em. Like to hear the sound when death pull up to get 'em. You niggas spoon fed, I shared my mom's bed. Pushing roaches off the table when it's time to get fed. So I got out here and got it, my nigga, had no business. Got out here and got it, my nigga, had no business. You can't tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you find a plug and get it off in a week. That shit off. You can't tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you get some money and he know how to eat. Yeah, you can't tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you find a plug and get it off in a week. That shit off. You can't tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you get some money and he know how to eat. Shit about me. Get that shit off. Shit about me. He know how to eat. Shit about me. Get that shit off. Shit about me. He know how to eat. You can tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you find a plug and get it off in a week. You can tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you get some money and he know how to eat. Yeah, you can tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you find a plug and get it off in a week. You can tell a nigga shit about me, but that boy you get some money and he know how to eat.
Okay, yeah, that was Buchanan with Miles Per Hour. And another bonus joint that we could throw up on there is Loyal Life Stress with Handle Business, man. Yeah, so big ups to all those artists. All right, so we're going to get back in the swing of things. Before we continue with what I was talking about, the American Economic Freedom Project, we're gonna get into the news you need to know. And we'll get right back to this and finish it off for the show. All right, guys, listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, around the world and right in your neighborhood, it's the news you need to know.
Brazil joins the anti-racist protests in America. Brazil has several police brutality acts happening in their own favelas. That's a Portuguese word for slum or shantytown. After viewing the protests in America, Brazilian citizens has joined the effort, gathering people, signs, and anger in the streets of Rio de Janeiro. Recently, a young boy by the name of João Matos Pinto was killed in a police raid targeting a suspected criminal running into the home. Sadly, tragedies like this are commonplace in Brazil. 1,814 people have been killed by violent police forces. They killed 606 more in the first 4 months of 2020. Community anger of the little boy's death, coupled with the murder of George Floyd, has sparked the people to protest. The people not only protest the police killings of innocent people, but also against the far-right Bolsonaro and Rio Governor Wilson Witzel. Several hundred raised their fists and voices outside the São Gonçalo City Hall chanting "No justice, no peace," and larger numbers are expected to build in the coming days. Afghanistan attacks continue in 2020. On March 9, 2019, the U.S. performed an air attack on an Afghan family that has caused the death of several people. This airstrike is a part of a larger operation called Resolute Support. This NATO-led mission has been going on since January 2015, which is a follow-up mission to the International Security Assistance Force completed in December 2014. In 2019, the U.S. dropped more bombs on Afghanistan than in the last decade. There were over 1,000 casualties, 700 deaths, 345 wounded from U.S. and Afghan airstrikes. According to the UN, 35,000 Afghans have perished in a string of airstrike operations. Even though there were many deaths by the hands of insurgents, the U.S. and the Afghans were responsible for more civilian deaths than the Taliban. regarding U.S. military tactics used in Afghanistan, Larry Lewis, a researcher at the Center for Naval Analysis, states, quote, "We are no better off than when we started counterterrorism operations after 9/11, and arguably in a worse position because of a narrow and flawed approach," unquote. After the deaths of tens of thousands of Afghans, 2,400 American soldiers, and $2 trillion, the U.S. is getting nothing out of a war that most Americans have forgotten. How is this still all going on? And that is the news you need to know. Okay, so we're going to continue on with this, and I was getting into the police departments. Just curious on why police departments get away with murder, literally, when it does happen. So just to continue on, just to go into the point by point within the initiatives for the police departments, I think quickly it's got to be a complete purge of racist officers within the police departments from low and high levels. You got to build relations with political officials or leaders of political unions. To me, there was a lot of talk with defunding, and I wrote this before, and I said fund unions, and I wrote this before it started really kicking off as far as defund police. And I'm checking this out and reviewing it. I think it's a necessary thing. If there cannot be reform put into place to change the actions of police departments, I do believe in defunding them and starting over. Now, it may sound radical and different, but it's really, after doing research, it's really not that radical, because actually there was one city that has done that. There was issues in the city, and it's not an answer for everything, but it does put the city on a whole new trajectory on how they can deal with police issues or corruption in that particular city. One city that did it was Camden, New Jersey. They actually disbanded the police department, and they basically restarted. Of course, I'm like, because I think what's key to understand is when you say hashtag defund defund police departments, defund PDs, defund police, whatever the hashtag is, we can't go by a hashtag. What does that mean? Defund. So, after doing some reading, it's a defund meaning not a complete elimination of police departments. All of a sudden, that's it. There's no such thing as police, but basically just reallocate some funding, because new NYPD receives, and this is new to me, $6 billion as their budget, and a part of that defund means reallocate some funding for the community where it comes to anything that's going to build up the community and eliminate crime at the same time in some trouble areas. And that makes sense, because you can't militarize the police in the way that we've seen on our iPhones and our phones in general, smartphones, looking at these protests. And it, to me, is a complete waste and misuse of money to police departments. They're getting way, it's like they're in freaking Iraq. And I do believe that in defunding police departments, it should go to some sort of economic rejuvenation, so for social services, better schools, all that for the community, so we can properly deal with any issues of the community. And I always believe in a restructure, and I say funding because, as I said, bullshit talk, money talk, bullshit walk. There's got to be a way where the community can tie into these police unions and fund them in sort of way. You say, Nova, what are you talking about fund? I'm not so sure yet. That's why I'm asking for your ideas as well out there. But in some ways where the funding can come from the community. And if it doesn't work based on, and of course, when it comes to funding, it's going to meet certain conditions with training, firing, disciplining of rogue officers, such and so forth. But if you still can't get what you need from there, then it's a complete dismantling of those police departments. And I fully believe, after reading when it comes to defund police, I understand that. I think also they should adopt de-escalation tactics that considers use of force as a last resort. That goes with training. Provide alternate employment options. And I say that because as I'm watching these protests and I see these cops on the line in their riot gear, and I've seen a couple videos with cops either crying or them really siding with the protests, and they doing it on the low. One cop that was crying on the line, he couldn't contain himself. And they was all the protesters was like, look, you're crying, you know you're on that side. And they had to pull that dude out, whoever the CO was, I guess, that pulled him out and replaced him with another dude. So there are a lot of cops that actually believe in what is happening or believe in the protest, but a police officer's job that's just what it is. It's a job, and they got to get paid. They got to pay rent. They got to take their kids to school. They got to pay for their cars, all these things. And a lot of times it's just not just saying, oh, defund police, or we got to deal with the police department. You're going to have the personnel. I always felt the same way when it comes to the older generation knocking on the younger generation when there is no economic hope in a particular community. You just can't tell a young blood, hey, don't sell drugs. It's bad, and get on your moral high horse and be like, no, that's bad for the community. You're poisoning the community. You're doing all this wrong. It's your mama, your papa. Yeah, it is wrong. But the conditions still remain on the why he's doing it in the first place, because there's no jobs, there's no place for him to go for some economic relief. So you have to not only say, hey brother, that's the wrong thing to do, but here's an alternative. You could go get this job here, you could go over there, blah, 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 to make money. You don't have to sell drugs, because a lot of the times cats that sell drugs don't want to sell drugs. They just trapped in a corner, and they got to do what they got to do, especially if they got kids. So we got to do something about that. So in terms of that, using that same concept, you have police officers that's just taking it as a job. I'm like, yo, man, I wish I could leave, but I ain't got no other place to go. That's why I encourage, as far as in the spirit of Lyfeblood.com, there should be a program putting into place. I have life transfer centers as we grow. That's going to be for the community in general as we build this network and this platform. But in this case, when it comes to police officers, it ties into the Life Transfer Center. Have a Life Transfer Center or a Life Transfer program, something where they can segue out of the police departments. Because there's a whole lot of cops that don't want to do what they do. Be like, man, I ain't got nothing to do. So start a program where we can figure out how to segue them out. They can leave flat out. I would love to go in the proper way, go to a protest, right? And speak to all the officers on the line. Each and every one of you, we're going to set you up with some funding. What do you like doing? What do you figure it out? We're going to fund you. You don't have to be a police officer anymore. Can you imagine that? Think of it. Conceptualize that. I can go right to the line and say, hey guys, you don't have to do, because a lot of times all that screaming in the cop's face don't mean jack. Because they're thinking in their mind, what you going to do? I'm doing my job. What, you going to pay my rent? You going to pay my mortgage? Right? You going to do all these things, all these problems I already have already? Look, cops are working class too. They working class people. But yet they have to pay bills. And yet, even though they may not like what they're doing, they have to do it anyway. So here's the Life Transfer Program. Segue them out. Don't worry about it. You could quit your job in 2 weeks. Don't worry, we got you. You imagine how many people will walk off? Can you imagine? Man, I ain't got to do this shit. They will literally take their helmets off and drop their batons, and then they will stand with the people. And lastly, pass legislation that will penalize police officers with repeat offenses. A financial penalty that be hefty, that instead of it taken out of the city budget, it's taken out of their pensions. You're going to have cops that like cracking heads because they're sadistic motherfuckers. Those ones. So you know what? You want to be a cop? All right, fine. Next time you get hit with something, you're gonna cost the city. I don't understand. This is a business. The city is a business. So how is the city gonna give it out? I think it was $1 billion in settlements. Why are they taking it on the chin like that? Yo, listen, check this out. You don't want to, and I've done this in work that I've done before. Look, you get in too many cases. You get this. We're taking it out of your pension. A chunk, 35% cut. Let me show you how quick officers stop doing what they're doing. If they know by the second time, their pensions get hit, all that stops. All right, let me move along. And that's done for as far as the initiative for police departments. Create private security companies. All right, you want to deal with cops saying, you know what, we're going to reduce tickets. We're not going to be on the streets. The crime is going to go up. Fine. You know what? The community start their own security company. And this is a way where you can create business for people in the community. You could start your own private security company. Get a city contract from New York. Speak to the governor. Listen, I have about 50, 100 guys. We'll patrol our own communities. That way, it's less of a financial burden from that huge fucking bloated budget that the NYPD gets. And now you can make sure that you have less cases when you go to court. If it's privatized, it will work. You hear that in the back? Ain't that something? You hear that, police? I think that's a police. I think that's an ambulance. Sometimes I mix them up. But you see what I'm saying? Okay, next one, number 8, start a local bank credit union. It's important to develop and locate a financial institution that supports the positive economic development of the community. If you see your bank is not doing what's good, start your own local bank or your credit union or a black bank. For my black lifers, African American lifers out there, you invest in your own black bank. There's George Washington Carver. There's also what's the other one? Oh, Jesus Christ, in California. One United. Boom. Okay. So in ways where we can start taking that same money and funding black startups, businesses, start it in your local bank, black bank, or credit union. Next, create a fund to finance small businesses and local communities. I've spoken about it before. Businesses don't need loans in a pandemic. Additional loans only compounds the problem. It's counterintuitive in building a healthy business. They need cash grants. Cash. They need money. Local communities need to fund this initiative for the business startups, entrepreneurs in the local community. The community funds the businesses. Start a program in that. This is what the people need. People that can't get their money from these loans that was set up by the government. No, all right, let the people do it. You can do it $10 a month, $5 a month. Do it for 6 months. Build up that nest egg. Now the people can come, hey, I need 50,000, I need 100,000. Or you could be, if you really want to make a move, donate $60 a month. How much is your what do you call it? Your cable bill. People will spend $180 on their cable. Still to this day. You understand me? $180. People do side things and spend $200. Wasteful spending. Now, if we get and we think like a network, we think like a collective, kind of like a beehive, and we're on the dollar power mantra. We say, all right, we're going to donate $25 a month to a local community business development program. So that way you can fund people where people can get cash grants. And it doesn't have to be a crazy overhead. 2 people to run it. 3 people, 5 people, whatever the case, donate their time. Or they can get paid for it. Because if we can amass $50 million a month, we can pay a couple of people to run this program. 4 or 5 people, $100,000 a month. I mean, $100,000 a year. Because it's expensive in New York. And lastly, let's get into strategic spending. That is key. Provide financial guidance to help eliminate wasteful spending in food, clothing, and other luxuries. Fuck Gucci. Fuck Fendi. Fuck all of them. The hell with them. They don't care about you. I said it before. I'm saying it again. Support local black businesses, especially fashion designers. We're going to have to calm our spending down. All right? We have to use our dollars and weaponize it. We did it with the bus boycott back in the day in the 60s. Excuse me, 50s. Excuse me from my rusty history. Forgive me. But the bus boycott went in for a couple weeks. What was it? Almost a year? We have to weaponize our money. In order to eliminate companies that drain our local economies and silence the businesses that give nothing back to our community, we have to starve them out. Starve them out. You have to give the community B and C in order to starve out A, fine. D and E because the A is out. Now you get down to B. All right, I was only giving you money for the time being because I don't really like your ass anyway. I'm giving it to D and E. Starve your ass out. Get out of here. Or start a business that does the same thing as the one that you don't like no more, and then you give your money to them. Another way where you can do strategic spending is biking. What are you talking about, biking? Yeah, biking, yo, bike to work. You know what you do when you bike to work? You don't spend money on gas, and you don't spend money on the taxes that you got to pay on top of that. If people don't like internal combustion engines and want them to fast forward on battery powered vehicles, use a bike. You don't want to pay your taxes? How does cops get paid? From city taxes. Use a bike, man. That's just an example until you get what you need. Now, it's not feasible in every way. Now, remember, folks, you don't have to bring it down to zero as far as the revenue brought in by a company you don't like. You don't have to bring it down to zero. You just have to bring it down enough where they cannot sustain themselves anymore and they got to close the doors. It ain't got to be brought down to zero. If their operating budget is 60% of their revenue or 85% of their revenue, you just bring it down 60%. Sustain that strategic spending. Okay? You could knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. Build and revitalize your local community businesses, and you take out the larger companies that don't give a damn about you. This is how you build back your community. This is how you do that. That's why it's not voting alone. It's a more holistic solutions to the problem that requires everybody's contribution. Everybody has to be on the same page. That's how it can work. If everybody was on the same page for the bus boycott, it was like, because it was real. Racism was real. In your face. Cats getting beat up, lynched, all that. Listen, it's the same thing. We got to bring that energy right back here. We have to take advantage of the opportunity that we are going through with this protest in the United States of America and what is happening. The world is on your side. The world is on your side. Now you have to be disciplined and strategic, and it's not just voting. It's listed in everything that I just said. That is how you push through change. That's where we go. That's outside of the protests, because the protests are good. But what do we do outside of that? What's plan can we implement that involves everybody to force the change? Because what they're doing is they're waiting for you. They are waiting for you to calm down. And then all that running around, this is what we're going to do, and all that kneeling, that fake ass kneeling, and all them crocodile tears, they going to wipe their tears and they going to get up off that ground and they can continue with that shit against you. What do? You got to keep the pressure on their neck. If the pressure was on ours, and look what happened. So we got to put the pressure back. Some of them they're going to learn, others they're going to. You know what? I got to say, again, I got to bring up Neiman Marcus again. And somebody also said Arby's. And it was a joke on social media, on Facebook. They were saying, who the hell is going to Arby's? Because I haven't seen one single person talk about Arby's. And where the hell is an Arby's? How the hell they keeping it doors? Same thing with Neiman Marcus. As I said, with companies are going through a bankruptcy. How the hell are they keeping their doors open? And they $4 billion in debt. How is this company staying these companies staying open, Neiman Marcus, and our communities are economically drained? How the hell are they filing bankruptcy and they keeping their doors open and the lights on? We have communities right here falling apart. They continuously are getting bailed out, these extra fucking large companies, and the people can't get jack. Telling y'all, this is what we do it. This is how we do it, all right? The American Economic Freedom Project, that's for every American. Black, white, Asian, Filipino, whoever, Arab, Middle East, I don't care where you come from, Florida, Texas, Seattle, Washington, California, Arizona, New York, Maine, wherever, all 50 states, Hawaii. the American Economic Freedom Project. This is how we start putting things back together here. Okay, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for listening to me. Hopefully this gives you some insight. And by the way, shout out to IG in a bad way, because they stopped my promotion of the American Economic Freedom Project. What did they tell me? They set the promotion was going, and then they said, we cannot promote it. They stopped my promotion because they said, we require people to complete an ID confirmation or run ads about social issues, elections, and politics. Your ad may have been rejected if it mentions politics, topics that could include the outcome of an election or existing or proposed legislation. The problems of IG, man, and Facebook. If you don't want to deal with this bullshit, go to Lyfeblood.com, man. If you're looking for something different and you have to deal with this stupidness, come to Lyfeblood.com. Okay? It's going to be our platform. We won't have to worry about all that. Now, the only reason why you would get kicked off of Lyfeblood.com if you are promoting some evil shit. You're a racist, white supremacist, you're anything under that, not just in racism, but anything that promotes effery, now that's when you get kicked off. But pretty much you're going to be able to do whatever you want. Okay? So I appreciate the artists that submitted their music. Shout out to the artists that I pulled out of I got over 100 artists in the Rolodex that I have played on the show over these past, I think, almost 2 years. And I always show support by playing them again. So shout out to them as well. If anybody is curious about this new project that I got going on, please feel free. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm all for looking for someone smarter than me and how we can improve this project and implement it and start getting it out there to the people. Let me know. Hit me up. All right. Thank you guys, and peace. See you next week.
Yo, check it.
You just listened to GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com for the global community.
We worldwide, baby.
See you in the next go round. From right here to your town, we out.